Good day. I am Mitchell Patterson from the Office of Graduate Admissions here at Penn State Harrisburg. And thank you for joining us for this virtual fair for the master's degree in environmental engineering. We'll cover a lot of things as it ties into environmental engineering as well as pollution control. Joining us this afternoon is Dr. Shirley Clark, who is the professor in charge of the environmental engineering program. Dr. Clark teaches in the School of Science, Engineering, and Technology. We also have two current graduate school students with us today. We have Rizky, who is an international student from Indonesia in her second year. And we also have Ben, a first-year student within the environmental engineering program. Thank you all for being here today. Before we get underway with the program, Dr. Clark, can you share with the audience a brief background about what you do here in terms of your teaching at Penn State Harrisburg?
I'd be glad to, Mitchell. I've been at Penn State Harrisburg since 2003. And I have advanced through the ranks as faculty and am now professor of environmental engineering and the professor in charge for both the environmental engineering and environmental pollution control graduate programs. My background actually is chemical engineering with a graduate degree in environmental health engineering. My research interests and what I do, and we're a very water-focused program in this program, my research interests in our natural water resources issues, particularly flooding and resilience and water quality issues in our local streams and rivers.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Dr. Clark, for sharing that information with our audience. And Rizky and Ben, why did you pick this particular program? What's the interest of environmental engineering? And what are your goals once you do complete this program for graduation? So, Rizky, if you want to start.
Yeah, okay. So I enrolled in Penn State Harrisburg in fall 2018. Actually, I started in EPC program.
Pollution control. When
Yeah.
you say EPC, okay, for our audience, all right.
Control, yeah, sorry. So back then, I chose the university based on the courses offered. So when I checked the website, it said that in an EPC, we can tailor the program and we can take courses from environmental science, policy, engineering, and etc. And then it also covers pollution control for air, water, and solid waste disposal. That's why I think that would be like a good choice for me to do my master degree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Rizky. And Ben, what's the interest for you?
Well, my background was in geoenvironmental studies. I graduated from Shippensburg back in May. What attracted me to the program was the fact that I could earn an engineering degree here, even though my undergrad wasn't in engineering. I got on the website, I read about Dr. Clark's research with water quality and the focus in water issues that is associated with the program. The blend really of environmental science and engineering, I thought it'd be a great way to kind of pull together my prior education background and blend it with my engineering focuses. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you all for sharing your area of interest and your expertise, Dr. Clark. Before we transition into the roundtable discussion, Dr. Clark is going to lead us through a PowerPoint presentation that she's prepared that's going to give you a little bit more comprehensive look into the environmental engineering and pollution control program. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Clark.
Thank you very much, Mitchell. So again, we should have hopefully the PowerPoint displayed now to you. And I want to say good day, good afternoon, or whatever time zone you're in. Thank you very much for joining us. And we are going to talk about both of our environmental programs that we have on this campus. Again, sometimes it's tough, and as you heard Rizky say, you have to choose the program that's right for you. And what we want to do with this is to kind of give you an idea of what the difference is. When I think about environmental engineering, we're looking at design. We're really looking at designing sustainable and resilient solutions to address many of our problems. Again, we're a water-focused program, so we're looking at drinking water issues, wastewater, and also looking at natural water resources, stormwater, flooding, and things like that. We're really focused on how do we design solutions to solve those kind of problems. When think about environmental pollution control, it's really an environmental science-based type of degree. And it's really attractive for people who want to look at the policy or the science side, who might be wanting to look at wetlands, wetland delineation, water quality in streams, and also will give them an exposure to the engineering without having them have to focus on really design classes. And that's who it's trying to attract. So again, as you take a look at our programs, and you can always email us and ask questions. We're glad to answer them. That's what our thoughts are about what the differences are between the programs. Now, again, when I look at it, I think, why Penn State Harrisburg? What attracted me to Penn State Harrisburg? As a faculty member, we're located in the Chesapeake Bay Basin. It's a basin that is well known for its water quality and other environmental problems. So it's really a living laboratory for us to be able to focus our research, whether in drinking water challenges, wastewater treatment, and stormwater and natural water resources. We also have this big airshed that's causing problems for health of the people. Also, what I really liked about Penn State Harrisburg, and I think about this when I was doing my job search, is it's very conveniently located near the big cities of the United States, the New Yorks, the Philadelphia, the Baltimores, the Washingtons, without having to live there. I can be close enough to visit, and I don't have to live with the cost of living for those areas. What I would like to tell you all as you're looking at our programs, we find that we believe we give you great opportunities for participating with research with faculty. This chance to develop your own project or to tie into a project that's existing in your area of interest and focus. And we hope with that, what then you'll do is use it as a chance to potentially publish with faculty in peer-reviewed journals or conference papers and proceedings. And this opportunity to develop this credential that you can then put on your resume as you leave us and you pursue the next level of either education if you would like a PhD, or you go out and on the job market and find that job. Again, it's a master's student participating on a journal paper is much more unusual, and we'd love to have this opportunity to have you work with us on that. We also have opportunities for, and hope you would consider, the professional development that we can offer for you, the opportunities for field trips, but also to take your research and to present it to an audience, whether it's locally on our campus at our graduate open house, whether it is with our university graduate exhibition, or hopefully at local, national, and international conferences where you can talk about your research and talk to professionals in the industry who also may offer you a job. We've had several happen that way, but also this idea that you will have these credentials now to put on your resume and your skill set. But we're not all academics. We also believe that we should be giving back to our communities through outreach and education activities, whether it's through our Campus Earth Day celebration, whether it's doing outreach activities to schools and other local environmental groups, or even community programs. We do believe that we should be doing outreach and having some fun with that. Now let's transition and just let me see if I can answer a few questions about our degree program. Both programs are 30 credits. Both programs require our colloquium, and they both require some sort of a culminating research project. The environmental engineering degree does require a master's paper. The Master's in Science Environmental Pollution Control could do either a master's thesis or a master's paper. And again, it's just a case of the idea is they are a little bit blended. That's why I'm talking about them together. Is this idea that in the science and the engineering degree, we want you to have enough of a background in science to be able to apply science to engineering, whether it's core courses in chemistry, biology, process, policy. And then environmental pollution control, we want you to have a good background across the breadth of environmental issue areas. Then after that, you've got a substantial number of credits that you can make your own. You can tailor the degree to what you would like to study. So that's really that part of it. So now that you're considering us, we'd like to tell you about our admissions requirements. Again, in general, to be admitted to the environmental engineering degree, we do require, or we recommend you have an undergraduate degree in environmental engineering or in any engineering field. But as Ben noted, we do have a pathway in for students who do not have an undergraduate engineering degree. You have to have a year of calculus, and then a semester of differential equations, a year of college chemistry or college physics, and fluid mechanics and statistics. So again, there is a pathway, and then there's a pathway after this, if you're in the United States, to apply to be a licensed professional engineer. So there is that pathway forward. Again, the environmental pollution control degree, it's more of an environmental science basis, so we want you to have that year of calculus, a year of chemistry, and a year of physics. And so that's really your admissions requirements. Again, international students, you would be having additional requirements for English proficiency that you would need to meet that are set by Penn State's graduate school. Again, obviously everybody's going to ask about deadlines. We're coming in for that. In general, we are a rolling admissions program, but in order to process paperwork in time for the start of the semesters, as you can see on their fall semester, we need the application by August 1st. For spring semester, we need it by December the 15th. However, with two caveats on that, if you are applying for funding through one of the school-sponsored assistantships or graduate wage assistantships, then we do need your application for fall semester by January the 15th, and that is on our website. Again, also, if you are an international student, we must build in time for processing visa applications. We cannot get around that part of it, so there's usually Penn State request a 3 to 4 month lead time on that. But again, there's my contact information, also our staff assistant, Missy Burkholder. We will be glad to answer any questions that you have. And I would certainly like to tie this up by saying thank you, and we look forward to hearing from you. We think we've got a great program to offer for that.
Well, thank you, Dr. Clark. That was a great presentation about environmental engineering as well as pollution control, EPC, as well. So we're going to really move to the part of the order as to why we're here today is really to take some questions and talk a little more further in depth about the environmental engineering program. That's a mouthful to say. So I want to talk or ask the question today in terms of why is this degree important? You know, when you think about climate change and climate control and things that are happening environmentally, what makes this degree unique, or why is this degree important?
I will start with, I certainly think that, first of all, the Bureau of Labor Statistics says this field is growing. And I think the more that we are developing and urbanizing, the more important this degree is going to be. Whether it is risky coming from a country that is looking at still pollution control, in addition to all the sustainability and resiliency issues, or it's in this country where we may have more pollution control out there, not always, but that it's important that we look at sustainability and resiliency as we're seeing our cities sinking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, certainly. And I mean, to build on that, I like the idea that this program puts engineers out there. 'Cause, you know, engineers literally, you know, design the world, they shape the world, and this program puts engineers out there that do those things with, you know, the thought process of, you know, well, if I put this parking lot here, you know, what's happening downstream, you know, and just the environmental context in which the courses are based on. It's really important, especially in light of climate change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You want to chime in with that?
Oh yeah. So in my country, we are still working on how to deal with the pollution control. I mean, like to provide safe water supply, and then to deal with the flooding, and then how to provide wastewater treatment. So we have that a target that we can provide 100% service for all of the citizens, and then we also try to achieve the sustainable goals development target,
Mm-hmm.
that including water supply, sanitation, and that's all. I think
Okay.
that's really important. When I go back to my country, I can apply what I learned from here.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was architecture, our architect engineers who built the world, and you gave me something new to think about. But with that being said, with what are your goals at Risky? You mentioned going back to Indonesia to really take this engineering degree that you're earning from Penn State to work. What's your more in-depth or larger picture? And the same question for you, Ben, I'll come to you in just a second. What do you plan to do once you do with this degree, once you earn it from Penn State?
So I have to go back to my country. So actually, I'm working for government, for Ministry of Public Works of Indonesia. So the focus of my work is to develop wastewater treatment plant. That's why here my focus is more about wastewater treatment. So I hope when I go back to Indonesia, I can apply so here I learned how to design, like Dr. Clark mentioned before, how to design, and then according to the real situation in my country. So I think that's would be great benefit for me. And then when I have a master degree, it will be good for my future career. Mm-hmm.
So wastewater treatment is going to be a big emphasis for you back in Indonesia. Okay. Ben, what's your plan once you've earned the environmental engineering degree?
Well, my major interest first and foremost is stormwater, especially in light of, you know, issues with the Chesapeake Bay, nutrient loading, stormwater, Stream restorations is another interest of mine, and there's a lot of firms around here that I'm interested in, where that's a big issue for them, and it's one of the things that we go over here. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Well, thank you both. Another area that comes to mind when I began to think about environmental engineering and pollution control in particular, by way of what students are doing with the program. So can we transition into talking about projects, publications, conferences? Risky, you've been here now for 2 years or a little less than that, and Ben, you're just getting started.
Mm-hmm.
But where are the opportunities for students who are involved in the program? Because there's classroom instruction, right, that you're dealing with Dr. Clark and so many others from the program, but other opportunities that students will look for once they're here. So can we talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Clark, I mean, you've sent me a slew of emails lately about different conferences. Certainly, yeah.
Have you gone to any, or have you had a chance to go
No,
to
it's
any?
still my first semester. Yeah,
Right.
so I personally have not attended any yet. No.
So I'm going to come back to my left and defer to you, Risky. What conferences or publications or co-publications that you've been involved in while in the program?
So my first project that I've been involved is, this is like adsorption treatment. So I and my partner, she's from Indonesia as well, we use banana and orange peels to adsorb chromium from textile wastewater. So we make the peels into like a carbon. So we put it in the oven and furnace, and then we use these peels to adsorb chromium from the textile wastewater. And we started project last year, and we already submitted into several conferences. The first one is EWRI. It's environmental.
It's the Environment and Water Resources
Yes.
Institute
Ah.
Conference
That's
for ASC, the Civil Engineering Society.
It
Okay.
was last May.
And even before that, you presented at the graduate exhibition
Oh yeah,
and
Ah.
at university for the university, Penn State University system.
yeah.
Okay.
I forgot about it. So yeah, we
And
presented
one of the
in
award
that.
winners.
Yeah, we got third place.
Risky, you're being very, very bashful with sharing those wonderful things that Dr.
So, yeah.
Clark's talking about.
The first thing, yeah, we presented in the graduate exhibition. That's for all Penn State campuses. So we got third place for the engineering field, and then we presented in EWRI conference. I think that's quite a big conference.
It's
And
an
then
international, yes.
my first experience. It's really good experience for me. And then the second conference, it was PAMTech. It was a local conference in State College. Another one, there was so we presented the poster in Research Week here
Yes.
in Penn State Harrisburg, and then we got first place for that presentation. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's
So as you can see,
You want-
that this is something I feel very strongly about. Our fellow faculty, I'm not the only one. I feel very strongly about offering these opportunities for students to get out and present their research. You know, Risky's and Saskia's project on bananas and orange peels was actually a class project that developed further, that they worked on in 2 different classes and built on it. And so, you know, again, as Ben said, I've been shooting him regular emails on conferences because he is getting far enough along, and he's been working with a project that exists, getting far enough along that, you know, because the lead time to present at conferences is several months,
Right.
to begin to think
Right.
about what he wants to put in and present. He hasn't responded to the emails.
Okay.
But we'll be discussing this with finals week. So
Right.
trying to get through the rest of the semester at
Certainly,
this
yes,
point, yes.
That's
We're late in the semester,
understandable.
so yeah, we firmly believe that this is a great chance for students to get out, build their professional credentials, to get the practice both locally and then move out to these bigger conferences, both to show off what great work we're doing here with our students,
Sure.
because we could not be doing it without them.
Right.
And also to have them develop that exposure and experience starting at the local level where the audience doesn't seem quite so scary, and then move forward with that. And Risky and Saskia did a fantastic job at it. EWI, I was actually in their session. I wasn't speaking at the same time, which usually happens.
Right.
They were wonderful, and they got a lot of very positive response from the audience.
Right.
So that's always good that they get a chance to see that the audience is responding very positively to their work. That's a very, very important thing for me to help students understand.
Sure. And with that being said, again, I alluded to it earlier about career pathways. Where are students going to put all of this knowledge and information about pollution control and environmental engineering to work? So are they more regional to our area, Dr. Clark, or students are taking this particular degree and going where exactly?
It's an interesting mix at that point. And so, a lot of students, like Ben was talking about, who had a very strong interest in the Chesapeake Bay, may choose to stay in the Chesapeake Bay Basin.
Right.
May choose to because family is here to stay local.
Mm-hmm.
Others have traveling wings on their shoes. They come to us internationally. Riskies and Saskia are going home.
Right.
Some students who have come in internationally have applied for permanent status and have stayed, or in different countries pursuing PhDs. My former graduate student's in Australia right now pursuing a PhD at the University of Queensland because it best fit his research interest. He was from India, came here for a few years, and then went to Australia.
Wow.
So a good many of our students are local. The program itself is a mix of part-time and full-time students.
Okay.
So many of our part-timers are people who are definitely tied to this area,
Right.
professionally, family, and so they're going to stay local and help solve problems here. Where they've landed, many of them in engineering probably have landed in private consulting firms. The environmental pollution control program is a mix. Some of them are with private consulting firms as environmental scientists. Others are with the various government agencies, or with some of them are with municipal authorities, municipal government. Many of them, I just did a presentation at our state Department of Environmental Protection, and it was like visiting my alumni. So again, there were 7 or 8 students, former students there I hadn't seen, and some of them in 5 to 10 years.
Right.
So we've been putting people in there. Other colleagues who work in drinking water, they're running drinking water systems around the state and around the country.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, it sounds like there's an abundance of opportunities for students while they're in the program and what lies ahead. It sounds like a very, very promising pathway, a promising career. I want to bring it back home, something that's more organic in terms of, we talked about the admissions requirements. Geoscience is what Ben has with his undergrad degree. So what does it look like, Dr. Clark, when you talk about prerequisite courses if you don't have an engineering undergrad degree? Because it's a 30-credit program, right, from start to finish, but how many additional courses are we looking at that's prerequisite before you get into principal courses into the major?
That's a good question. It depends on what undergraduate major you come from. Again, Ben came in, and one thing Ben did that was very proactive, he and I had been talking for a year before he came here, so he could plan to take the calculus while he was still an undergraduate.
Right.
The additional calculus that wasn't required for his undergraduate degree. If you had to take the year of calculus, the year of chemistry, and the year of physics, you are talking, not stacking them on top of each other. You could do some of them simultaneously.
Right.
But you're probably talking 3 to 4 semesters of coursework if you came in with nothing.
Okay.
So again, it depends on what you come in with. If you, for example, you take fluid mechanics from us, which is one of the prereq courses for the environmental engineering, we do require you to take statics and dynamics before that.
Okay.
So if you don't take those elsewhere, you're going to have, that's a 3-semester sequence.
Okay.
Right.
And so it just depends. That's Ben's going through that
that's
right now.
exactly what I'm in right now.
Right.
And so it depends on where you come in. Now, again, if you're close, if you come in with calculus and at least a semester of chemistry, usually students can mix graduate courses with those undergraduate prerequisites. So like you could take your required policy course because it doesn't have the calculus prerequisite. So you were able to do both. You're able to feel like you're making progress and document you're making progress on your graduate degree at the same time you're fulfilling an undergraduate prerequisite course for the program.
Okay.
So we try to mix and match that because it is very discouraging. I've had a student tell me that who was told that by a prior administrator, that it was very discouraging to be told you had to do all of the prereqs before you could take a graduate course.
Right.
And if you can mix them together, then you're making progress on both tracks.
Gotcha. Well, and it also ties into you're building a pathway towards success, right? Because you don't want to have a student take on these courses and not have the foundation to be successful.
Right.
So that becomes really, really important. Another thing that I know a lot of viewers would like to learn more about is scholarships and assistantships. So can we talk a little bit about what fundings are available for students that are at any level, be it a first-year student part-time or a student who's coming into the program full-time? Is there room for assistantships for students to be had here at Penn State Harrisburg?
There are multiple opportunities for assistantships. Again, it's always there's always more students and we wish we had more money.
Sure.
That's just the fact of life. We do have, through the school, we have several graduate assistantships, which a graduate assistantship would be 1 year of guaranteed funding, and it would cover tuition, and it would give you and some fees, and it would cover a living stipend. So effectively, you would be earning a small salary.
Okay.
It should be enough to cover living expenses. Again, we also have taken money from the campus, from the college, and created graduate wage assistantships, which is what Ben has. And that does not cover tuition, but it is designed to provide some money towards living expenses. Effectively, it's a wage payroll position where the wage rate is higher than it normally would be as a scholarship, because Ben was an exceptional student.
Mm-hmm.
And so it does that, but it's up to 20 hours a week. But it does not cover tuition. Now, any of those also could transfer to, or could be with somebody who's working on a research project that a faculty has that is funded. Depending on the research project and how the funding is set up, we may have positions for wage payroll where you're basically paid by the hour, or it may have enough money into the project for a graduate assistant that would be in the same funding category. Again, we're always, working on building up our resources to provide additional support to students.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like there's a myriad of ways to get through graduate school through funding. Do we have many?
And could I add on to that? I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I forgot
you sure
something.
can. You
The
sure
other thing
can.
I was thinking about when Risky was presenting, there also is a nice, and this is one from the college, support, and through our School of Science, Engineering, and Technology, there's also quite a bit of support for student travel if they're accepted to present. So so that burden comes off the student if it's not built into a research project. There are funding mechanisms where the campus and the School of Science, Engineering, and Technology believes it's critically important that we support students to do this professional development. So I believe, Risky, you had applied for one of the grants for one of your conferences
Yes.
and received it. I know your fellowship from Indonesia through USAID covers some travel, but I know it doesn't cover most of it. That's the kind of thing. We do have that available to ensure that students are not out a substantial burden of money unless they want to eat steak every night. But
Right.
we do
High
cover
protein,
registration, travel expenses, hotels,
Everything.
things
It's
like
so
that.
easy.
Oh,
So
well,
yes.
that's good to hear because you don't hear that often that things are easy. So
Yeah.
no,
So
that's very, very
and
positive.
it's critically
yeah.
important. So it allows students to have that opportunity to travel. They have to be presenting either a poster or an oral presentation,
Okay.
but it does provide that support, and it's been a wonderful benefit for both faculty to take some of the financial burden off, because sometimes projects have ended before the presentation is given,
Sure.
so there's no back funding. But it's
Right.
also been something that I think has been critically important for us being able to provide professional development opportunities.
Excellent, excellent. Well, can we talk about the structure of the program in terms of when classes are being offered? I know as an admissions recruiter, when students are thinking about graduate school, they want to know flexibility, schedule of coursework. Is this designed on a cohort model, or we're looking at part-time, full-time? What are the available ways to earn this degree?
Okay, so it is not designed on a cohort model.
Okay.
That's first thing first. We grew out of and we're growing out of a part-time model. That's not to change, because again, a lot of our students are local practicing environmental engineers, environmental resource professionals, which does mean it does force many of our classes to nighttime.
Mm-hmm.
Again, with the earliest class being our colloquium and our sustainable engineering course that start around 4:30.
Okay.
So again, working professionals don't have to take off during the day to come to class. Our 3-credit graduate courses are offered one evening a week. And we do try to make sure we do not overlap that so that we don't have a problem with somebody going, I have to choose between 2 classes that we think would not want to overlap.
Correct.
Again, that's the general goal of that, because again, we still are probably somewhere between 60 and 70% part-time.
Okay.
It is flexible in terms of having that flexibility in terms of taking classes. Again, some students who are part-time do 1 class a semester. Others will occasionally do 2. So if you wanted to go from 1 to 2, 1 semester because you happen to have some free time, you want to get a little further ahead, that's not a problem. You could do 2, but again, if you want to keep going at 1 class a semester, that's there. We do, however, make sure we have enough offerings, different offerings each semester, that students who are full-time like Risky, like Ben, will have enough of a variety of classes and that they can get their degree within a year and a half to 2 years. Because
Wow.
that's critically important. So, when Risky and Ben signed up for classes this semester, there were 3 or 4 graduate classes for them to choose from in the field. Plus, we do work with other departments if we see a course in another department that looks like it's interesting and would apply maybe in public administration for those interested in policy. We put that out there as a potential course for students.
Wow, that sounds very, very flexible, Dr. Clark. And what has been your experience from a student lens into the program in terms of flexibility? And I understand that with international students, you're required to be here full time, but has it met your need?
Yeah, I think it's also good for me to have class in the evening because during the day I have time for the homeworks, and then I also work in the lab, so I can spend the day working in the lab. And then another thing that I like here, the class is not that big, so the students maybe like up to 15 students.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really the interaction between the students and then the professor is really intense, like really engaged.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and then the professor knows all of the students really well.
Yeah, I've
That's
also
your
found
experience?
yeah. I mean, very flexible. There's always definitely plenty of night graduate classes that I'm interested in. The only difference with me is, of course, I have my deficiencies. Like I'm taking statics right now, so that's undergrad, more of a morning class, differential equations. So if you are coming in with deficiencies, you're probably going to have to take some classes earlier in the day. But strictly graduate classes, yeah, good flexibility evening if you're working, definitely.
Okay.
And I hope out of that, what I find good is that we mix traditional full-time students also in with working professionals so they get that interaction. I hope that's been a positive
Yeah,
part of your
definitely.
experience.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that pretty much wraps up the conclusion of the virtual fair. We're going to have some closing thoughts from each of you, so I'll give you the last word, if you will. Dr. Clark will go last in terms of explaining why this program has been so successful here at Penn State Harrisburg. But Risky, again, why this particular program and what's your final words for today as to what makes Penn State great in doing this particular program?
Oh yeah, the professors are really supportive, like they are really helpful, and they always have time for the students. If you don't understand something, you can just come in and ask, and then they, like I mentioned before, I involved in several conferences because of the professor also encourage us. For example, one of my professors said that you will get straight A if you submit your paper into conference.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think
That's a great
really,
incentive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
And Ben?
Yeah, definitely what I like about the program is the fact that so you have the engineering program, you have the EPC program, environmental science, engineering. A lot of those classes you can take no matter which program you're in. So, you have the engineers that get to kind of see the environmental science side of things,
Right.
and also the environmental scientists get to see some of the engineering concepts. And again, coming from my background, that blending is really what drew me here and really what I like about the program.
Thank you, Ben. And Dr. Clark, you get the last word.
Thank you very much, Mitchell. One of the things that attracted me to the program when I was applying for jobs was this ability to mix the science and the engineering in class. My background is a mix of science, engineering, and policy, as well as environmental health. And so I always wanted a program where we can bring that diversity of courses, experience, backgrounds into solving these problems in the environment, whether it's flooding, whether it's air quality, whether it is wastewater treatment, and into these multidisciplinary solutions to hopefully make a better world for all of us.
We can definitely use that. And without anything else, I want to thank Dr. Clark, Ben, and Risky. Your input was invaluable. And to our viewing audience, thank you for tuning in today.